It's Christmas, and the Mavs are about to play a basketball game. We're getting you ready for tip-off and all it encompasses right now on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Hello and welcome to the DLLS Mavs pregame show. We're getting you ready for tip-off here between the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and yours wherever you are watching in the great wide world. Hope your holiday season is off to a ferociously incredible start. The Mavs are looking to make our day even better with the really early tip-off, 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time tip-off here between Dallas and Minnesota. This is kind of the main, the prime time slot on the NBA holiday slate. It's a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. It's two of the best players in the game, Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards. It's two other international superstars, Kyrie Irving, Rudy Gobert, all-time Mavs nemesis, Julius Randle. We got Klay Thompson looking to pass Reggie Miller on the all-time three-pointers made list. There's a whole lot going on today, and we're going to get you ready for every single dribble that we're about to witness. A little bit of backstory. Well, first, I'm Bobby Carella. Sorry. In a second, I'm going to be joined by Tim Cato. Right now, though, I'm joined by Tanner.
Hello.
Hello, Tanner. How are you? I scared Tanner right whenever we started because my YouTube didn't refresh, and I was like, are you sure we're live? I don't know.
Yeah, I panicked for a second there. Thanks. That was a good Christmas gift there.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. You unwrapped a lump of coal. The Mavs are looking to unwrap a dub, though, and they've been doing a lot of that lately. So like I said, when Tim comes on, we're going to talk a little bit more about this stuff, but I want to breeze through some stats real quick. The Mavs are 14-3 in their last 17 games. That dates back to November 16th. Since this stretch began, the Mavs are third in offensive rating, 11th in defensive rating, and 5th in net rating. And that 17-game stretch includes 2 games at OKC, a game at Denver, a game at Golden State, home games against the Grizzlies and Knicks, 10 road games, 8 games without Luka, 3 back-to-backs, 2 games without Kyrie, and a partridge in a pear tree. It has been a very, very tough last month plus for Dallas, but the results, you can't argue with those. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, the Wolves are reeling. They have lost 3 straight games. Over their last 3 games, they've gotten off to some pretty disgusting starts. Last time out against Atlanta, they scored just 19 points in the first quarter. They were down like 15 or 16. They scored just 15 points in the first quarter against Golden State. They were at, I think, 22 points with 4 minutes left in the second quarter in that game. Now they scored 33 against the Knicks, but they were down 73-51 at halftime of that game. And so they're just getting off to some ugly starts. Over their last 3 games, Ant Edwards, 17 points per game on 35.7% from the field, 32% from 3. Jaden McDaniels, 8 points on 38.5% from the field, 27% from 3. Mike Conley, 5.7 points on 35% from the field and 38% from 3. But they've been struggling for a while on offense. Since November 21st, so that's about a month, they're the number 2 defense in the NBA by defensive rating, which is good, but they're the number 27 offense, better than just New Orleans and Washington. And the Lakers somehow are a bottom 3 offense during that time as well. They've scored 110 points, them being Minnesota, have scored 110 points one time in the last month, and that came in an overtime loss. This is a team that really, really struggles to score. And the Mavs defense has done a really good job against teams that have a hard time scoring lately. So it's shaping up to be a pretty good day at the Old Barn, but nothing is guaranteed. The Mavs have to go take it. And now we are going to bring someone in from said barn. Joining us now, Tim Cato, live from American Airlines Center. Tim, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and Tanner.
Hey, thanks. And
Thank
to you as
and
well.
And the listeners.
What's
and
the
the
vibe,
listeners.
What's the vibe
and
like
chat.
for those who have never been? Obviously, right now it's still early. It's still probably not full there or anything, but you've been to a couple Christmas Day games in your day. What's the vibe like at a Christmas Day game? Is it any different at all from a normal game?
It I was just describing this to somebody. Um, it's a little bit different in the sense there's a lot of holiday costumes, sweaters, Santas, Grinches. You're gonna see a lot of it feels a lot like a Halloween game, in that sense. Other than that, I don't know. It's I don't think there's a sense of like romance about it. If there's not a sense of like a playoff game. It doesn't quite reach that mark. But it's just a little bit weird. It's a little bit special. I think that's fair. I've been to, like you said, I've been to several Christmas Day games. Last year was against the Lakers, right?
No, last year was at Phoenix. Luka 50 points and 15 assists. That was a pretty
Or
special
2
night.
years ago, it was Lakers. 2 years
Yes,
ago, it was
in
against the
Dallas.
Lakers.
Yeah, it was the Dirk statue
That's right.
game.
That's right.
The atmosphere in the building that day was really cool because the Mavs scored 51 points in the third quarter. So it was electric.
That's right. I do. Yeah. So 2 years ago, I was at that one. I was at Phoenix last year. I believe I might have been in Utah. So I've been to a few Christmas Day games, and they're if you're not here in person, you're not like missing out on. You don't need to skip out on your family just to come to a Christmas game. I promise, it's not that special, but it is a fun time.
Well, take your family with you and go to the game. I mean, I expect the atmosphere to be pretty rowdy tonight. It's a rematch of last year's conference finals. Of course, Mavs fans have a long and storied history with Rudy Gobert, and the biggest Grinch of them all, Julius Randle, is coming in. We're going to talk about what he's accomplished in Dallas over the years a little bit later on in the show, but I want to go back to the Mavs a little bit, Tim. They're 14-3 in their last 17 games. I got kind of curious and said, hey, I wonder how often do they go 14-3 in a 17-game span? This is a team that, for a really long time was around 500, maybe a few games above 500, and that's not easy to do. And so I pulled up the old span finder on StatHead and found each of the last 3 single seasons, so not like you win 4 in a row to end the year and then start 13-4 or whatever, when it's all contained to one season. Each of the last 3 seasons, the Mavs have won at least 14 out of 17 games. They had a pretty dang good postseason run. So that includes 2023-24. They went all the way to the finals. 2021-22. They went to the Western Conference Finals. Both of those spans happened after the trade deadline. And then in 2010-11, they did it a couple different times that season, and of course, they won the finals. Previous
They're the Streak Busters.
You what?
They're the Streak Busters.
They were. All the other teams that were on big winning streaks, the Mavs clocked them. Now, they also had similar runs in 2006. They went to the finals. In 2007, they won 67 games. But, 2 of the last 3 years, they've won 14 out of 17, and they've gone at least to the conference finals. And so it kind of implies to me, like, yes, obviously you have to be a really good team in order to go that far into the postseason, and the postseason is dictated more by matchups than by just general quality. But whenever you can go on long, sustained runs of excellence like this, it pretty much implies that you are a very special team. And that means you can win a variety of different ways, which means you're probably not going to get mismatched out of like the first round. It seems, Tim, like this, and we've said this a lot, but like it really does seem like the Mavs are just good. We just have to get over it. They're really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most simple, reductive thing in all of sports. But yes, winning basketball games is good, and doing it a lot in a short period of time does indicate things about your team. But I think you're right. Like what it indicates is that you are not just a matchup merchant. You are not just a team that can beat bad teams. If you're winning that many games in a row, you are beating 17 games, right? 14-3. So a 17 game stretch. There's no schedule is easy for 17 straight games. You don't face teams under 500 for 17 straight games. You don't face 14 of the 17
unless
teams.
you're the Bucks. Unless you're the Bucks, then you can.
Yes. So it that's what it indicates. It also indicates not just matchups, but it indicates a consistency on your side. We have seen many teams, some of them the Dallas Mavericks, have very high highs, very low lows. This team is much more, even in its ability to just go out there every night and find a way. And that doesn't mean that every single aspect of the team is consistent. There are players who are going to fluctuate. There are, offensive rebounding, 3-point. There are parts of the team that's going to fluctuate, but they have so many parts. They have so many abilities or ways to win that when one is a little bit inconsistent, when it's not the night for, Spencer Dinwiddie, then you've got people who can step in for him. If it's not a night where you're getting, 15 offensive rebounds, well, maybe that's the night instead you're just going to hit a bunch of threes instead. So this team has a lot of ways and options and manners of winning. And that indicates, greatness, or elite level regular season basketball ability that we expect also to translate to the postseason.
And it's just kind of different, like this happening now as opposed to at the end of the season, because the whole thing, like the old adage, right, is like you want to peak at the right time. And each of these last two runs that the Mavs have gone on through the playoffs in 22 and 24, they peaked kind of at the perfect time. Whenever they were almost out of time is when they caught fire. And then they, sort of rode that tidal wave all the way to the conference finals in one case and the finals in the other before running into the eventual champion. Golden State in 22 and Boston in 24. But, I don't know that this team has peaked yet. That's the other thing. Now, the rest is still unwritten. Natasha Bedingfield wrote a whole song about that. That's Natasha Bedingfield, right? Is that right? So, we don't know what's going to happen. Guys could get hurt. The Mavs could make a trade that could backfire. Other teams could make trades that could really kick it out of high gear. The Wolves are playing absolutely abysmal basketball right now, but they could turn it around and become a huge problem. OKC exists out there. They're the boogeyman. So there's a lot of reasons why this thing might not get better. Like this could be the best it is all season. But on a lot of these post games, including the other night, you and I have kind of said, like the Mavs kind of played like a B game or a B+ game. So it really does feel like there is another level that they could and maybe will get to.
Yeah. I mean, the teams that usually win the championships are good the entire time, right? Like there are runs, there are celebrated legendary runs where a team has got hot at the right time and carried it all the way to the finals, to a championship. That is not typically how it goes. Usually you're just good from game 1 to game 82, or you're good for most of it. Like, the championship Mavericks, the 2011 Mavericks. And, you have a little lull in the middle. But that lull was because Dirk Nowitzki got hurt for 9 games, So usually it's not a gradual ascension. It is just it's a consistent dominance, and Dallas is, more or less en route to do that. So
they got to keep it up though. And that includes tonight's
Yes.
game. That includes a couple days from now, they go to Phoenix. You want to talk about a team that's going through some horrific stuff right now where the vibes are they're very immaculate. That's happening in Phoenix. And so, Dallas is now playing 2 games in a row, one today against Minnesota and one against the Suns, against teams that have playoffs or maybe even title aspirations, that are losing, that cannot buy a win, where the vibes are awful, where the form is even worse. And it's like, can you bully? It's one thing to bully the Blazers, right? It's one thing to beat the Clippers, who are like pretty good, but they are what they are. It's another thing to like take this really good team face and just rub it in the dirt, and the Mavs have the opportunity to do that today. So it should be fun. Coming up here in a minute, we're going to talk about some of our favorite Mavs Christmas Day memories. We're going to go over the injury report. It's good news. It's not bad news for once. And then we're also going to talk about some of the X factors and keys to the game here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. But first, I want to run you through my sleeper pick. Sorry, I'm getting choked up just thinking about how successful I'm going to be today. Sleeper's running a special today. Anthony Edwards' points total is down to just 20.5, so I think he's going to score more than 20.5 points. I think Julius Randle's going to hit more than 1.5 threes. That guy just loves breaking Mavs fans' hearts. Kyrie Irving, I think more than 21.5 points is extremely doable, extremely easy, and extremely, I feel like I'm robbing Sleeper by making that play. And then Klay Thompson needs 3 threes to pass Reggie Miller on the all-time threes made list. I think he's going to do that today, and I'm about to ask Tim when he thinks Klay's going to do that. But my $5 bet, thanks to Sleeper's multiplier, is going to pay me out $44.15 if it hits. So good luck to myself. And if you want to play along, use promo code DLLS Mavs when you make a Sleeper account. Deposit $5, and you get $55 to play with and have some fun and hopefully retire early. Tim, when is Klay, and Tanner, you join in too. What quarter is Klay going to hit his third three today, or will he hit his third three today?
Maybe he comes out like Dirk did when he was about to break. It was 30K, correct?
Yes.
And he's just
he's going to do it early?
Yeah, maybe he takes the first 7 shots of the game. What if that happened?
I'm going third quarter.
Third quarter for Tanner. So Tim, you think first quarter?
I'm gonna say realistic. Yeah, that's not. Honestly,
Tanner
it's not
gonna
look like Dirk. But yeah, give me first quarter. Why not?
All right. Okay, I love that. I'll go second quarter just to split the difference. Chat, let me know. So I see Luke says first quarter. Put your predictions in the chat. Maybe we can have chat play along with us too. Rockfish says third quarter. All right. Opinions vary. I like to see it. So we touched on one of Luka's best performances ever. I think that's probably my favorite Luka game. His 50-point, 15-assist masterpiece that he put on last season on Christmas Day against Phoenix. The season before, the Mavs unveiled a statue for Dirk, and the team scored 51 points in the third quarter en route to a really cool win over the Lakers. Luka in that game only scored 32, so his averages the last 2 Christmases are 41 points and 12 assists. For those wondering at home, this is Kyrie's first Christmas game since 2020. Over his last 2 Christmas Day games, he's averaging 38.5 points and 8 rebounds. So those 2 guys like playing on Christmas Day. Tim, what are some of your favorite basketball Christmas memories? Like, this is a really special day in basketballdom.
I mean, I remember the Mavericks when they got the Christmas Day game after the championship. It was not good.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was it was coming out of the lockout. They played the Heat again, correct?
Yes, they raised the banner, and then that was the last time I felt good that day.
Was that opening day?
Yes.
It was
Yes.
because of the lockout.
Yep.
So they started the season on opening day, and it was miserable. Dallas didn't have they had lost half their team. They didn't have Tyson Chandler. You still had a bunch of the vets. Dirk wasn't out there, I don't believe. And just that was not a good one. But I've always enjoyed Christmas. I do really enjoy watching it. Like I was kind of poo-pooing the idea of like being here in person is magical. And maybe, to be fair, I have traveled to work games on the road on Christmas Day. So maybe that's partially where I'm coming from here. But I've always enjoyed just the slate of game after game after game after game. I really miss the Christmas Day uniforms. I thought that was something that we've lost since Nike took over for Adidas, and I always enjoyed.
You
that.
like the alts, huh?
I liked the Christmas Day uniforms. I did.
Okay, interesting.
I thought they provided something a little bit special to the games. Did you not?
I didn't like the year where they made everybody wear the sleeves. That was like a stain on the NBA's legacy, I think. But I did like the swirly sort of candy cane cursive kind of lettering on the jerseys a couple times. I did like some of those for sure.
Yeah, I was huge into those. I thought those were very sweet. I think LeBron tweeted about it this morning that he misses them as well. So
interesting.
Bring back the Christmas Day jerseys. Fewer jerseys in general, but more jerseys on Christmas.
Today, the Mavs are wearing their icon jerseys, which is like their standard blue jerseys. That is really surprising. Although I think according to Mavs Tracker, that's their last jersey that they haven't lost a game in all season. So maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah. And historically, the icon jersey has been bad, right?
Yes. Things are very chaotic in the icon jerseys, usually. But this year, they're reversing the jinx, which really makes you think this year is different.
Maybe this year is different. Maybe this is their chance. Maybe they're reversing and reverting every curse that has ever come down upon them.
Maybe. All right, let's touch on the injury report real quick and then get into some of the keys of the game. Luka available. He was initially listed as questionable, but I mean, I think it was kind of understood that he was not going to miss this game. Jaden Hardy also available. He's missed a little bit now with a sprained ankle, but he'll be back. I don't know if he'll actually get in the game, just because Dinwiddie's been playing pretty well, and Najee and Grimes have been playing. Like I don't know if Dinwiddie's actually, or if Hardy's actually going to play, but he is available.
I don't think it's a
Dante
great
Exum-
sign in the game in the first 3 quarters.
You what?
I don't think that means things are going well for the Mavericks if he gets in the game in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I could see that. He'll definitely get some run, I think, against the Blazers this weekend, if nothing else. Just second night of back-to-back, they'll need the juice. And maybe against Phoenix as well. But Dante Exum and Brandon Williams are out. But this is the healthiest the Mavs have been essentially all season. Just one two-way player and then a guy who got hurt in camp. So pretty much the whole roster is available, which is good. For the Wolves, Luka Garza, Joe Ingles, and Dacian Nix are all out. Those guys don't really play much anyway. So, two pretty healthy teams going at it. I'm in. Some keys to the game, some X factors. Julius Randle, I think, is too good to be called an X factor just because he's like an all-NBA, multi-time all-star kind of player. But he turns into something that's even better than that every time he comes to Dallas. So he scored 25 points or more 4 straight games in Dallas, including a 44-point game performance here. The last time he didn't score at least 20 points in a game in Dallas was March 7th, 2017. That was the Dirk 30K game. But he recorded a triple-double that night. So it has been a very, very, very long time since Julius Randle had a bad game in Dallas. Why does he always kick the Mavs' ass?
Can a man not love coming home?
Dude.
Are you anti-family?
He could take it easy on them for once, just one time, as a joke.
I just think that this man feels comfortable in his hometown, in the suburbs. Like, he feels connected. I don't know why you're out here on Christmas, no less, with this anti-homecoming diatribe, with this screed.
Christmas is not the time for family, all right? It's the time for being a bad guest, being a subservient guest, letting the host win easy.
Okay, well, I hope, Bobby hopes Julius Randle just has a falling out with his entire family, I think is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm resigned to him scoring 35. Like, I know it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen.
There's been a lot of discourse around him. It would be a very, very, very Julius Randle thing to happen.
That whole thing is, I wouldn't say it's backfired because, like, at the time, again, we talked about it on our show. Like, I didn't think it made them better. I thought it made them better against the Mavs. I did not think it made them better as a team in this league at this juncture. But, you want to talk about a guy that, a team that could be looking to make a move. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, the news comes out today from Shams that Jimmy Butler he prefers a trade. I don't know. It was worded very carefully for some reason. But Jimmy Butler, I guess, wants to be traded. I can guarantee you the Wolves won't be trading for Jimmy Butler. But it would not surprise me if things keep going the way they are in Minnesota. If Minnesota's looking to make a move and Randall's, I think, on an expiring deal. So that would be, it seems to make sense that they would eat their losses on that pretty early if things keep going bad.
It does make sense. So we'll see what happens. It's no surprise that we had some conveniently timed NBA transaction news the morning of a big day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
we'll see about that. It would be funny if Minnesota traded for Butler. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be funny. I don't know if this counts as an X factor because this is unquantifiable, but energy, especially from the bigs. So rewind to October, whenever the Mavs played at Minnesota. It was the second night of a back-to-back with travel for the Mavs on the road. That's a really, really tough situation to play a game. Team got off to kind of like a middling start, but Daniel Gafford had a great first quarter. That's back whenever he was starting for the team. He had 8 points on 4-4 shooting in the first quarter simply by beating Gobert down the floor. And we saw the Mavs bigs do this throughout the playoff series last year between these two teams. They were just out hustling, out running, and frankly outworking Gobert and Towns and even Naz Reid, although Naz had a big series. Lively's obviously the starter now, but Gafford's coming off a huge game. Both of these guys are quicker than Gobert. They have the size to contend with him and maybe even take him on around the rim, but I do expect to see a lot of that just sprinting up the floor, which kind of makes PJ Washington or Luka or Klay or any of these other guys getting the rebound that much more valuable because it allows the big to sprint as opposed to look for the outlet pass and all that stuff.
Right. And what do we say about, Daniel Gafford and his keys to success? He usually succeeds when he's playing a bad team that can't physically match up with him. So we've got a bad team. They've got a center across from him. They can't physically match up with him. So this is a perfect scenario for Daniel Gafford, to kind of do what he does well.
And I cannot stress how important it is for them to just race down the floor, even if nothing comes of it. It means if Gobert is trailing Gafford, right, or Gobert is trailing Lively, and they're booking it down the floor, then that means that Julius Randle or Jaden McDaniels or somebody else has to pick those guys up, which means Gobert's then got to switch off onto Klay Thompson or Kyrie or Luka. Like, even if Gafford's not getting like a run-out dunk or Lively's not getting a skip-ahead pass for a layup or whatever, you're forcing a cross-match, sometimes even off a make. And like that kind of thing can be really, really, really destructive on the defense. And I really think, Minnesota, when Ant is locked in, he's an unbelievable defender. Jaden McDaniels obviously really good too. And they have some guys off the bench. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is pretty interesting. But for the most part, Minnesota has a lot of guys that they do not want guarding Kyrie or Luka. A lot of guys that they do not want switched onto those guys. And so if you can create those mismatches just simply in transition from running down the floor fast, that's something you have to do like every single time, I think.
Yeah, and I know we have some, people in the chat that have, very familiar names, some regulars, but so they've heard me say this before, but there is a reason Dallas prefers to do 4, 5, 6 minute stints with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. They call them sprinters. They want them up and down the court. And when they get, if they're doing it so much, they get tired, they get fatigued, they're going to pull them out there. They're going to put the backup in, and then the rotation will go on just as it did. So this is a coach thing. This is a very purposeful thing. And you're absolutely right. Against Minnesota, both in the playoffs and in the previous game, it was something they used to great effect.
And if they can get back on defense too, that's really important. After not their most recent loss, but after the loss right before that, Anthony Edwards comes out in the postgame and is like, every time I turn the corner coming off a screen, I run into 4 guys in the lane. Like, he kind of apologized to Wolves fans through the press saying, like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything at the rim right now. Like, teams are just walling off the lane, encouraging all these guys on the Wolves to shoot. And so if Gafford or Lively are down there, that deters Ant from dunking. If Gafford and Lively's coming up the floor, lumbering their way up the 94-foot hardwood, that does not deter Ant from dunking. Ant's going to get going, and you don't want to get Ant going. So it's really important for them to do it at both ends of the floor. Finally, Najee Marshall. 3 kind of so-so games since he came back from injury. Or not injury, sickness. He was out for a really long time. But I do think his size, his length, his strength, his ability to be disruptive on defense could come in handy against Ant today, whether that's man-to-man, in isolation, or as a help defender or as a rotator or whatever. But, whenever Luka and Kyrie and Klay all have it going the way they do, it's like Najee's scoring isn't as important. It's like they can use him more of as a defender than as a guy that needs to get, 15, 18 points off floaters. Yeah,
and I think it's a good time for him to lock in a little bit defensively. I would say he hasn't been a bad defender, but he has not stood out on that end. Obviously his scoring has been very, very impressive and really helped the Mavericks in some games. But you're right, it is a little bit ancillary when you have your full team out there, and there are going to be games where it's important. There's going to be games where Luka is forcing double teams on him when he's just unconscious. And then you're like, oh, what would be perfect? A kind of two-way player who has ball handling chops who you can toss to. He can come up and screen, and then all of a sudden it's Najee Marshall attacking a 4-on-3. That's a situation you love. There's going to be situations where, maybe it's not even hard doubles on Luka, but just the way the defense they're playing, you feel confident that you can get Najee into 4-on-3, 3-on-2 situations. You like him attacking the rim and surveying the options and making the choice, making those decisions. There's going to be opportunities for that, but there hasn't been in the past 3 games, since he's been back, and he's been, just fine. So I think, as he improves or increases or gets back to the peak defensive ability that we've seen him at throughout his career, I don't think we've seen that yet in Dallas. That is a path to more minutes. There are other paths to more minutes, but until that happens, I still like him. Still think he's a great player to have coming off your bench. But yeah, sometimes he doesn't need 25 minutes. Sometimes it's just a 10-minute night or something like that for him.
We'll see what it is tonight. The Wolves have some wings. They got some guards. They got a big-time playmaker who's a big-body, strong dude. So this could be a Najee game, but we'll see. The luxury that the Mavs have is that they have a lot of other options too. So they got a lot of time to figure things out. Tim, I appreciate you, man, and we will we'll see you after the game.
See you then.
Bye, Tim. All right, that'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Be sure to join us after the game. We'll go live 10-15 minutes after this bad boy is over, win or lose, to either celebrate or commiserate. Are the Mavs going to unwrap? Are the Mavs going to wrap a dub? Are the Mavs going to unwrap a dub, or are they going to unwrap a giant lump of coal? There's only one way to find out. That is to switch over to ABC and check out the action. Like I said, be sure to join us here for live postgame coverage with me, with Tanner, with Tim, with Mark Stein, and with the still on vacation but still chatting Kevin Gray Sports in the chat. Hey, enjoy the game. Like I said, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you sometime around, let's say, 4:30 for the DLLS Mavs post-game show. Enjoy the game, everybody, and we will see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.